Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight with the release of a long-awaited report on Johannes Revoir. The former Nunavut priest is accused of abusing children in the territory in the 1960s and 70s. Juanita Taylor has the details, but first a warning, some people may find this story upsetting.
A retired Superior Court of Quebec judge was commissioned to do an independent review of sexual abuse allegations against Johannes Revoir, a former Nunavut priest. Justice Andre Denis was also tasked by Canadian and French oblates with examining their own policies and how complaints are handled. While not a legal finding, Denis concluded that Revoir is guilty of assaulting at least 6 children in Nunavut in the 1960s and 70s.
The fact that one of my members, the members of our order, contributed to the pain and suffering of children, betrayed a trust that these children and their families had in him. It is a cause for shame.
Denis says in his report that the Catholic Church knew nothing of the accusations when Revoir fled Canada for France, where he's from, in 1993, just days before the first complaint was filed with Nunavut RCMP. That's something victims in Nunavut wanted proven, that the Church did know about the accusations and helped Revoir escape.
I'm glad that he does think that Revoir is guilty, that he did sexually abuse children in Nunavut. I'm glad he did that. But I'm disappointed and angry that he says that the Oblates didn't know at all until 2013.
Denis' report says Revoir told the church he needed to return to take care of his elderly parents. But it wasn't until 1998 when RCMP charged Revoir, and a publication ban prevented Revoir and the Oblates from knowing about it until more than a decade later. Revoir was then suspended from all religious missions, and his French citizenship protected him from extradition attempts. Denis says the Oblates' Rome leadership should remove Revoir from their French residence, where the 92-year-old pays for his room and board with Canadian and French pensions. The Oblates in Canada say they accept Denis' findings. Revoir's lawyer hasn't responded to the CBC's request for comment to the report, which is not legally binding. To this day, Revoir denies the accusations. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Federal Auditor General released her spring report today. Karen Hogan has found that the federal government is failing to meet its commitments to Indigenous communities when it comes to housing and policing. Take a listen.
This is the 4th year since 2003 that we are raising the alarm about unsafe and unsuitable housing in First Nations communities. Adequate housing is a basic human need. After 4 audit reports, I can honestly say that I am completely discouraged that so little has changed and that so many First Nations individuals and families continue to live in substandard homes. The findings of our last audit on the First Nations and Inuit policing program are equally concerning. Overall, we found that neither Public Safety Canada nor the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, worked in partnership with Indigenous communities to provide community-based, proactive policing services. They did not collect enough information to know whether the program was achieving its intended results, including whether the requirements set out in policing agreements were being met. Time after time, whether in housing, policing, safe drinking water, or other critical areas, our audits of federal programs to support Canada's Indigenous peoples reveals a distressing and persistent pattern of failure. The lack of progress clearly demonstrates that the government's passive, siloed approach is ineffective, and in fact contradicts the spirit of true reconciliation.
Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu welcomed Hogan's report. She pointed to investments her government has made to First Nations housing since 2015, but she says there's still a long way to go. Lawyers for the Innu Nation from Labrador were in an Ottawa courtroom today. They're challenging an agreement between the federal government and Southern Labrador's Nunatuavut Community Council, and they're backed up by other Indigenous groups from across the country. Mark Quinn explains.
Labrador's Innu Nation is asking a federal court to quash Nunatuavut's MOU with Canada. They say the 2019 agreement suggests that what they say are false claims by the Nunatuavut Community Council are true.
They are not Indigenous group that can hold rights. They are descendants of settlers who try to reinvent themselves to access resources, services meant for legitimate Indigenous people.
Members of the Northern Labrador Inuit Nation, Nunatsiavut, were also in Ottawa to support the Innu Nation's court challenge. They fear the MOU will lead to a loss of territory that rightfully belongs to Inuit and Innu groups.
These false claims not only challenge our territorial integrity, but also erode the trust built over years of dialogue and collaboration. The Government of Canada must recognize that further discussions with the Nunatuavut Community Council would legitimize baseless assertions.
L'Assemblée des Premières Nations.
They were also joined by an Innu leader from Quebec, an Innu representative from the Assembly of First Nations, who called on the federal government to respect their collective voices.
When all Inuit and First Nations peoples tell the government a group isn't legitimate, government should listen.
The Nunatuavut Community Council was also in Ottawa for today's court proceedings. Members of the community, seen here at the residential school apology in Cartwright last fall, strongly reject claims that they are not Inuit.
This sort of conversation that is now happening around, Indigenous identity and false claims to Indigenous identity, that is an important conversation, but it is really not related to our situation whatsoever. It is only that some others are starting to try to project that conversation over on us. And really there's no basis for it.
The Innu Nation's court challenge is scheduled to continue in Ottawa tomorrow. Todd Russell says the NCC will appeal if the Indigenous leaders who spoke out today get the decision they want. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
A woman in Delo, NWT, caught an unlucky break this weekend. She couldn't find a single available transportation service to bring her disabled daughter to the hospital in nearby Yellowknife. Now, she says the city of Yellowknife needs to rethink how it provides services for those with disabilities. Robert Holden reports.
This is the ramp that we use for my daughter, and it's about 72 steps going down and up. In winter time, it's really scary, like it's slippery.
Violet Martin's daughter, Vicky Lee, requires this large ramp to get in and out of her family home.
When we take her out from here, we go down. And then as you go down, it goes down, down, down. It's really slippery.
Yellowknife only has one wheelchair-accessible taxi, which Martin relies on to bring Vicky Lee to the hospital, where she stays most of the week. When her daughter needed to return to the hospital after a family visit Saturday night, she found out the vehicle had been impounded by bylaw, and she was out of options.
I was so disappointed. I was so mad, and I didn't know what to do. It was crazy.
Martin had also missed the cutoff time for the Yellowknife Accessible Transit System, or YATS, which normally costs $2 to ride. There's been criticism in the past over the service's operating hours, which run roughly from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Martin says she knows others who regularly need rides after it closes.
It's not good because some people, they come in from Edmonton and late at night, and some of them, they use wheelchair taxi and that, and I don't even know if the wheelchair taxi are pick them up or not.
She says she's willing to pay more for the taxi, as it's usually a faster journey. With no Yats bus or taxis available, people are often forced to use more expensive options like an ambulance. The city of Yellowknife tells CBC News there's no plans to extend the hours of Yats to avoid some of these transit dead times. Last month, they announced a new fleet of buses that will be designed with wheelchair accessibility in mind. 2 out of 10 of those buses will go to Yats, but currently there are no buses in the capital that run past 7:30, accessible or not. On Saturday, Martin was able to convince bylaw officers to release the impounded taxi to transport her daughter. Now she's calling for more wheelchair-accessible vans in northern communities and is even considering selling her vehicle to get one herself. Her daughter, Vicky Lee, had a personal message for the driver that came in on his day off to transport her to the hospital.
Thank you.
Robert Holden, CBC News, Yellowknife.
In Whitehorse, the opposition Yukon Party continues to press the governing Liberals about the location of an upcoming managed alcohol program. The program will be housed at what's currently the St. Elias Group Home. That's a supervised housing facility in downtown Whitehorse for adults with developmental disabilities. The Yukon Party says it's heard from staff who are concerned about where current residents will be moved. The party asked the health minister in question period why the group home was chosen for the managed alcohol program 2 days in a row now. Leader Curry Dixon says he still hasn't gotten a clear answer.
We were hoping the minister would clear the air there as to why they chose this location, because quite frankly they could have had the managed alcohol program anywhere in Whitehorse, but yet they chose the St. Elias Group Home, which is occupied for another purpose already, and we don't know why that is.
Yukon Health and Social Services Minister Tracy McPhee says the government considered several options for the program. She says St. Elias was chosen in part because it already meets several program needs, such as having facilities for staff and clients to stay 24/7 and clear sightlines. McPhee says current St. Elias residents will be moved to more home-like settings and that staff will be given other jobs within the department. A large crowd gathered outside the Yukon legislature this afternoon to commemorate the raising of the Two-Spirit flag. March 19th marks Two-Spirit and Indigenous LGBTQIA+ Awareness Celebration Day. Guest speakers included elders and Two-Spirited people. They shared personal stories about the significance of the flag flying in the Yukon, saying it builds a stronger territory, especially for future generations.
We are building a better future for all of you. That the work that we're doing today is work that you won't have to do. You will have work to do, but we're doing all of the work that we can to make this world a better, safer place for you.
La Crosse had a message for people who felt they had to leave the territory to be themselves. They can come home. If you have a vehicle parked at the airport in Inuvik NWT and it's been there for more than 3 months, officials are putting you on notice. You have until April 30th to move it or it is going to be towed. The NWT Department of Infrastructure says abandoned vehicles are causing problems, taking up space, and getting in the way of snow clearing and maintenance. They say 4 of these vehicles have been parked at the Inuvik Airport for more than a year. 10 more have been there for longer than 3 months. Starting May 1st, you'll need special permission to park at the airport for more than 30 days.
Making 40 $50
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes your world.
All right.
Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
It goes on like this, and on and on and on and on.
It's news you can trust, delivered when you want, where you want. On Canada's News app. Download the free CBC News app.
Priya doesn't love exercising, but loves the way it makes her feel. Max doesn't love cooking, but loves homemade meals with his kids. Paul doesn't love doing his taxes, but loves getting the benefits and credits he qualified for. Learn more about benefits and credits like the GST HST credit and Canada Workers Benefit at canada.ca/every dollar counts. A message from the Government of Canada.
Hey, you're some friends, aren't you? Stand here and now you try and blackmail her. You disgust me. Every one of you.
Coronation Street. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Bad hair days. We all have them.
Even as scientists. I think I know my place. It's not making art.
What? This is a whale?
That's incredible.
I'm piloting a boat in the fjords of Norway. I love this job.
Someone broke into my gym locker, stole my hearing aid. I feel naked without my hearing aid. And my clothes. Didn't catch up. It's about the body hair, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot.
Dignitaries in the public are paying their respects to former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney's family. Mulroney's progressive Conservatives governed the country for nearly a decade, from 1984 to 1993. Ashley Burke reports.
A family and a country saying goodbye. Former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney lying in state near Parliament Hill. His wife Mila, daughter Caroline, and 3 sons, Nicholas, Ben, and Mark, greeting Governors General present and past.
Somber, sad, but inspired by a man who has left such an example for all of us to follow.
Michaëlle Jean shared what she said in her final goodbye.
That my heart is with him, that I said to him that he meant a lot to me in difficult times, when he would take the time to call me.
Jean said she admired Mulroney's sense of conviction.
We were together also, at the funeral of Nelson Mandela, and he told me the epic, fight it was, how he quarreled, with those who wouldn't do enough. He did with Margaret Thatcher. He did with Ronald Reagan, telling them that they had to do more because apartheid was a crime against humanity in South Africa.
Diplomats among those first to pay their respects and reflect on his legacy.
It's a great loss to both Canada and for us. Prime Minister played a historic role because he was the first leader in the Western world who recognized Ukraine's independence.
A steady stream of Canadians lined up too, some with personal connections.
When Mulroney was the Prime Minister, he came and met with our cabinet and met with our people. And he actually was, I think, the first Prime Minister to come out more boldly and recognize the Métis Nation. He used those exact words, the Métis Nation, and it touched every one of us.
Robin Averill showed the family a photo of one of his many performances singing for Mulroney.
Oh, he was great. He used to love to get up on stage with me and sing. And this, of course, you all know what his favorite song was When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. When Irish eyes are smiling.
The public visitation in Ottawa continues until Wednesday afternoon. Mulroney will then lie in repose in Montreal before the state funeral. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Today is the first official day of spring, and the change in season, along with warmer temperatures, mean the imminent arrival of fire season. Last year's fires were monumental right across the country. Now, a new report on global air quality is suggesting that those fires are the reason Canada's air quality has taken a big step backwards. Anand Ram has the details.
Okay, so this is my emergency kit.
Peyton Knight is ready for most days.
This is my inhaler, this is my aero chamber, and this is my EpiPen. Yeah.
There's also an instruction card if someone found the 12-year-old unresponsive. But even for the ever-prepared Peyton, who lives with complex asthma and allergies, last year's wildfire smoke was too much.
It just reeked. when it's too smoky outside, it's like there's an elephant sitting on my chest.
Those sunless, choked skies, moving far beyond our borders, set the country behind in new global rankings by IQ Air, an air quality tech company. Of the most polluted countries last year, Canada did worse than the U.S. and double World Health Organization standards.
Previous years, Canada has the cleanest air quality in all of North America, and this year we saw just the exact opposite.
The report measured levels of PM 2.5, a pollutant that can spew out from wildfires, travel deep into lung tissue, and can cause breathing, heart, and cognitive problems.
There's no safe amount of particulate matter to inhale.
A lot of people
For some of the most vulnerable, like children, it's driving calls for upgrading air quality where they spend most of their time.
Schools as clean air shelters have actually been proposed in many countries because it keeps your child population healthy, and it also serves as this extra resource for communities.
Canada's warmest winter ever could set up a repeat of last year, and that may keep Peyton from an upcoming outdoor family wedding.
If it's too smoky, then she doesn't get to go. Something that everybody looks forward to, like going to their auntie's wedding and being a part of that, is now, because of our current climates, has turned into something kind of nerve-wracking.
Cold calculations as our warming climate feeds the conditions for longer and stronger wildfires. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
Alberta was hit hard with wildfires last year, and drought conditions in that province haven't improved. People in Calgary are being asked to do their part to conserve water because the risk that this drought will persist is high. Dave Gilson has that story.
City officials welcome recent precipitation but say river levels remain low and reservoir storage is average. They're asking residents and businesses to help through indoor and outdoor water conservation strategies. If dry conditions persist, they say outdoor water restrictions may be implemented as early as May 1st to ensure there's enough water in place to meet essential needs for Calgary and downstream partners. Mayor Jody Gondek says Calgarians have helped in the past and adds early education is important.
The sooner we're able to get out in front of the public and let people know that we are in a drought condition, we are taking this very seriously. The province is taking it very seriously. Our situation here in Calgary is not necessarily the same as other parts of the province, so we remain very active in communicating to the public what we're looking at. So our first step is to educate people on the fact that we are in a drought.
The city is also implementing water conservation strategies and continues working with the province and regional partners. Natural Environment and Adaptation Manager Nicole Newton says they continue to monitor the situation and hope to see more precipitation.
And so we need significant above average snowpack to be able to bring us out of drought conditions. The watershed as a whole is in a deficit, and so it's going to take a significant amount of precipitation to bring us back to normal.
More information can be found on the city's website. Dave Gilson, CBC News, Calgary.
The House of Commons has passed an NDP motion related to the war in Gaza. The original wording called for Canada to officially recognize Palestinian statehood. That language was changed before voting took place. MPs were debating late into the evening yesterday before passing the motion with the change.
By replacing paragraph I with the following, quote, work with international partners to actively pursue the goal of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East, including towards the establishment of the State of Palestine as part of a negotiated two-state solution.
The amended motion is non-binding and reflects some of the current Liberal policy. For instance, it makes reference to Hamas as a terrorist organization. Despite the changes, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is praising the motion. He says it forced the Liberals to stop transferring arms to the Israeli government and place sanctions on extremist settlers in the West Bank. Canada's inflation rate defied expectations in February, dropping for a second month in a row. Annual inflation dipped to a 2.8%, down from 2.9% in January. Economists had been forecasting a slight rise. Analysts say slowing price increases for groceries and cellular and internet services are behind the drop. Rent and mortgage costs continued to apply upward pressure on inflation. Core inflation, which strips out volatile items like food and fuel, also came in below expectations. We'll get to weather in just a minute. More on inflation. The news will likely increase pressure on the Bank of Canada to start cutting interest rates. It's widely expected that won't happen until June at the earliest. Now to the weather. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
When my grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, first arrived in Hollywood, it was a place of dreams. But my grandfather clashed with some very powerful forces in America.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Stand away from the stand!
I'm Una Chaplin. This is Hollywood Exiles. It's about a war of ideas that tore apart friendships, ended careers, and affected families like mine.
Hollywood Exiles, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do lonely people eat more cereal? Can love help us live longer? Does heartbreak make music better?
I love this music.
Could AI compose the next masterpiece of our time?
Robot composers conducting robot music.
Do you really need to wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming, even if the last thing you ate was cereal?
I'm enjoying every mouthful.
When you get curious, you get CBC.
Closing this case gets you one step closer to you getting back on the squad and keeping you out of prison.
You're not a detective. You're a con artist. You have a driver's license, right?
Of course, I have 9. If you couldn't be a cop, what would you be?
Nothing. My dad raised me to be a cop. That's who I am. Stay here.
You're adorable.
You guys are making this entire station look like a circus.
He's busy trying to solve a murder. What are you doing?
Thanks for having my back.
Look at you.
Is this your girlfriend? This is not my girlfriend.
She's way too cool to be your girlfriend.
She's not way too cool to be my girlfriend.
We've won the costume contest every year.
Bunny! Oh, they're squishing me. What have we done?
Frig. Friggin' frig off.
What
in the flying friggity frig was that all about?
That was hilarious.
It's just a bit of fun.
Son of a Critch. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Name something that gets you more excited than hanky-panky.
Gummies.
What?
Gummies.
Family Feud Canada. Watch free on CBC Gem.